Hey, welcome to another podcast of Law Enforcement Unconventional with your host, Robert Scally, and our real-life shield maiden,
Wendy Schallmere, coming to you from the top of Bunker Hill.
Our show is dedicated towards assisting law enforcement in special operations to include military, rescue, first responders, and to all others who are trying to help protect our brave men and women in blue. Each week, we're going to bring you an unconventional tip, tool, tactic, or training from around the country. Please sit back, listen to our show, and enjoy yourself. Thank you. Hey, welcome back to the show. We have a great show for you today.
We want to give first a shout out to the Border Patrol agent in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. He carried an unresponsive woman about a half a mile in a snowstorm to his vehicle. He found two people in the desert and one was unresponsive, and now both are recovering. Thank you to this Border Patrol officer, and great job, Homeland Security.
You know, and talking about Texas, we also have an officer with us today. He's calling in from Texas, and let's get him on the line. Pete, are you there?
Hey, I'm here, Bobby, Wendy. How you doing? Happy to be on the show.
Hey, we're really glad to have you on. How's it going down there in Texas?
Well, it's going good this week. It's 77 today, and the snow is all gone. It was like a bad dream. So we're all happy. Back to normal.
And the department, everything going good?
Everything's going well. No complaints. Moving forward. Like I said, we're happy that snow is gone. We're not used to that. I did grow up in the East Coast, so I was used to it. But the locals were not, so it was a shock to them. Well,
I'll tell you, we were just in Texas maybe 3 months ago, and we were going through the Fort Bliss area on our way through New Mexico into Arizona, and we were driving, and it was like the worst snowstorm I have ever. I mean, southern New Mexico, and it was the worst snowstorm I've ever seen.
Even being from Boston.
Even being from Boston, it was crazy. I mean. They shut the roads down.
Yeah, that's how I felt because they're not used to that here. There's no plowing, there's no trucks, there's no salt, none of that.
Oh my, they're not prepared. I agree. And Pete, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
All right, great. We just want to make sure we have a good connection. Well, before we start the show, we're gonna tell the audience a little bit about yourself and about your credentials, like tell some backstories. This is the hard part because a lot of the officers don't want to talk about themselves, but we have to do that.
Go ahead. I get it. I don't mind. People need to hear. We're in a different era. We got to start coming out of our shells and letting people know who we are and what we're about. And at the end of the day, we're human beings with a heartbeat just like everyone else, and we have a job. So my background is I'm in my 18th year on the job. I started in a big rural county in Pennsylvania. I started there. I was there for a good 6-7 years, and then I went down to South Florida, Broward County to be exact, and I was in the second largest city agency there. And then what brought me to Texas was my family had some illness on my dad, with my dad, and that brought me to Texas. And then I got on with a large county agency here in the DFW area. My background ranges from narcotics, SWAT, negotiator, kick-ass patrol officer is my favorite part of the job to this day. All those other accolades and specialized units are great, but patrol's where it's at. That's the heartbeat of police work. That's the real nitty-gritty. You're going to get to see and do everything in patrol, hands down. And I've been that officer for a long time, that what they're trying to bring around now, that de-escalation cop. Well, I've been doing that my whole career, especially where I started in rural PA. My nearest backup was 45 minutes away if I had a hot call. So let me tell you something. If you didn't have verbal judo and you didn't have good de-escalation skills, you're going to be in a world of shit.
Oh, that's
my background in a nutshell. I don't want to be on a soapbox all day. It's not about me. It's about you guys today, and I'm here to promote you guys and the shield because I'm a big proponent of it. I use it every single day, and that's what I'm here. So that's my background for all those cops listening there. I've been in that nitty-gritty for a long time. I love it. I don't think I'll ever retire. I don't believe in that word. I'm 47. I feel like a fit 30-year-old because I stay sharp in mind and body. I think that's important. I think a lot of officers are forgetting how important it is to stay not only physically fit, but mentally fit as well. You got to stay mentally sharp. When I hear guys say that, stress, it's stress. Well, I believe, I'm going to quote somebody, an old FTO of mine, stress is not a consequence of a particular situation. It's a consequence of your inability to manage your own system. And I live by that because that's true.
That's important, managing stress. You're really good at it too, Pete. We thank you for all you've been doing.
Yes.
I know you spoke about your credentials, but there were a couple instances, I think, where you were engaged or were shot at. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Sure. One of them was in the rural Pennsylvania. I got a call for just a combative subject. Roll up on scene. He decides to run and barricade himself up in the attic. I had a dealing with him prior once, and it was just a shaky situation all around. The family wasn't the most helpful, I would say, on that scene. And again, my nearest backup was about 40 minutes away. But he's barricaded up. And I try to establish communication with him. He's, motherfucking me up and down. He doesn't want to talk. He wants to die. I asked him if he had weapons. He said no. The family said, I don't know, but he might. So it was just a weird scenario to start, right? You're by yourself. I'm a rookie cop. I think I'm 2 years on the job at this point. And most of my training was, the academy, which you guys know is subpar. It doesn't prepare you for real world. It just doesn't. And the agency I was with was not paying for any training. So any training that I had to seek out on my own and attach myself to veteran cops and learn from them. Because in this career, we're always learning. If you stop learning, that's the day you die. So my backup shows up finally, and he goes, "Hey, is he up there?" I said, "Yeah, he's up there." Meanwhile, he assaulted somebody, so we got to take him into custody. We had a felony charge on him. And I said, "I don't know if he's armed or not, but, they said he's suicidal." So I had this idea. I took off my ball cap, and the attic was in a way where it was one of those old school attics where it was like a ladder type attic, like you're going up into your garage here in Texas and Florida areas. If guys out there can relate what I'm saying. It's more of a ladder, not stairs. So as I climbed this ladder, I took my ball cap off and I kind of tilted it forward. And as I broke the crest of the floorboard into the attic, a shot rang out and put a hole right in the middle of my ball cap. Well, we knew he was armed at that point, right?
Wow.
So that changed the dynamic of everything. The officer that was there with me shit himself, literally, froze. We had to wait for additional backup. In that area, Pennsylvania State Police is the only agency with a tactical team, and they arrived 2 hours later. This whole time, I'm still building and trying to maintain a rapport with this guy, even though he would have blew my head off had I poked my head up there. My partner wanted to go up there. He goes, "Just go up there and we'll mace him." And I just had this weird feeling, and that's that sixth sense, that's that something, that Spidey sense I call it, that cops have. That can't be taught in the academy, right? That's an ability that I believe within us, and that saved my life that day.
That's incredible.
So that was crazy. I mean, I still have the ball cap to this day. It's a reminder of how things quickly could change and how we really have to think outside the box and not ever rush into anything, because time is on our side, especially with barricaded subjects. That whole rushing in and the military concept of, fill and flow and all that stuff. Well, that's great in those environments. The guys are trained that way and they're kitted up the way they're supposed to be. But I was a lone patrol officer in a town, in a huge county, with nothing. No shields, nothing. Just a duty belt, a police car, and a ball cap.
How long ago was that?
2004.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
It was.
And have you seen a growth in the amount of equipment that's being issued to law enforcement to do a better job?
No, I honestly have not. I mean, outside of, when Taser came out, I'm not a big fan of Taser. I think a lot of officers get hurt and or killed because they're deploying a Taser when, it's on the force continuum, it's actually below mace because there's no residual effect. You mace somebody, they could be incapacitated for a good hour with the effects of mace, but a Taser, after that 5-second ride, it's over. There's nothing. So I was never a big fan because they're using it in scenarios where deadly force would be justified, and they're pulling out Tasers, and the guy has a butcher knife. Outside of the Taser...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pete. What I was going to say is, it just amazes me. We ask you people, we ask you officers to do a great job. Go out there, serve and protect, do what you can. But again, I don't see an advantage of the equipment changing over the last 20 years, 30 years. It's just consistently staying the same. And people should be coming out with, and they talk about de-escalation. Well, let's give officers those tools that they desperately need. Like, let's think way outside the box. Let's bring in some other tools. You know, there's a lot. We have a lot of scientists. We have a lot of great developers out there that can build things. Let's bring other tools in that can naturally de-escalate a situation, right? We're not asking the officer to go down. You know, again, when I use the word de-escalation, we always say we build a shield that will de-escalate the violence being used against the officer, not the officer. But it amazes me that we don't have a complete growth in this country of inventors coming out with new tools that can make you all safer in the field.
We don't, and I think it has a lot to do with departments aren't transparent, you know, and that's been like that for years, and that's a problem. And I think that's the culture that needs to change. That mindset has to switch, where we have to be more transparent so people understand why we do what we do, and not sit behind a keyboard. And you know, they say hindsight's 20/20. Well, that's great. But after a scenario or a deadly force situation, we could all Monday night quarterback it. And everybody does, and you know as well as I do, everyone Monday night quarterbacks an officer-involved shooting. But I don't ever hear of anybody coming out with a solution.
I was just going to say that. You know, Pete, I was just going to say that. I don't mean to jump in, but, you know, I get very excited when I hear you say that. You know, I get antsy because I hear people bringing problems but not solutions. Right? How many times?
You, Bobby, you're bringing a solution.
Well, no, I appreciate that. We do the podcast because I talk to every officer. I take our time. We listen to what their needs are. People think like, oh, well, you sell shields. I'm like, no, we don't. We look for innovation on training. We look on maybe new products that we can bring in that's going to work. Things that you all need, not something we're trying to sell. And that's a difference, Pete. You know, you don't need bells and whistles and new shoes and better guns. What you need is more safety items that I'm not going to pick up the paper and I'm not going to read about another officer killed every day or every other day.
Agreed. I agree. I mean, listen, I went to a funeral Monday the other day. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. It's going to keep happening. I mean, it's an unfortunate part of the job. But now, you know, being in my 18th year and looking at it from a different perspective, a lot of them could have been avoided. And that's sad for the families of the fallen when I say that. Horrible.
And you know, I always say this to Wendy, and I say this to everybody. You know, I'm kind of an eccentric when it comes down to we don't build second-rate equipment. We don't do that. Everything has to be top of the line. We have to, Pete. And people say, I've said this to people. If anyone's going to build RoboCop, it's going to be us. And it's going to, if I could wrap you in armor, if I could wrap your entire body in armor, and I know that a good person is going in to do a good job against a bad person, I want to put all of my protection on that good person, because it kills me when every time I open the paper and I'm like, oh my God, like another one. And it's just not going to stop. And the bad guys know what you're doing, Pete. They know you're going to walk up to the car. They know you're going to knock on the door. They know what you're going to do.
They do. They study the videos. They do. They watch these videos. I know that for fact. I've spoken to gang members that told me that we train better than you guys. And I believe them. And I'm going to be honest with you. Most cops don't train. You know, they go through their 1 year bullshit, put it on paper, qualification without any stress, zero inoculation, no duress, and they're like, look, my groups are so tight. You know, that's wonderful. That's the one time a year they shoot their gun. And those are facts. And then outside of the shooting the gun, to qualify, to do a checkbox for the police, you know, the who holds your license, whoever it may be, whatever state it is, FDLE or MOPEC or TICO in Texas, they're not checking a box. What has this officer done training-wise to de-escalate, to learn how to protect himself? What has he done this year? Where's that box to check? It doesn't exist. I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. So it's on each of us. I tell these to cops, young cops especially. Well, the department's not going to pay for it. The department's not going to pay for this. Well, then you pay for it. Because if I add up the amount of money you guys spend out on a weekend at a bar, at a UFC fight and drinks, and hey, have fun. I'm not saying don't have fun. But if you're going to do this job, and you know your agency just doesn't have the budget or the bean counters are not approving it this month, whatever. Those are all excuses. You got to invest in yourself, in the training, in the tools, tactics, whatever it is, case law, educate yourself, spend the money. It's really not a lot. At the end of the day, we're talking $2-3 grand a year. That's not a lot of money. I can find that easily to invest in myself. That's chump change for a life saved.
You know, we had the same situation when I was in Special Forces. We had the same when I was on the teams. What would happen would be going somewhere mission specific, and we needed certain items that the military wouldn't provide to us. They couldn't provide to us, and we would have to go to an outside source and purchase it because it was mission essential equipment for us. You know, personal equipment. If I need good climbing equipment, I need a good knife, a certain type of thing. I would look on the outside, and I would find it, and we would purchase it, and we would use it. And I never, ever scrimped on equipment, ever, because when I get into a situation, I knew that my equipment, if it was great equipment, would protect me and take me out. It just always worked out that way.
I agree. I agree with you 100% there.
Wendy?
As we're getting back to your experiences there, Pete, I know that you had that experience in the attic. Were there any other times that you were shot at or engaged?
There were, and I don't like to go too deep to protect the officers that were there. We had another instance. A guy came off of, again in rural PA, came off it was a domestic. Woman comes running out, soaked in blood, says he's trying to kill me. Obviously, he cut her up pretty bad. He comes off his porch. I mean, he just had that 1,000-yard stare. And he just came at us, and we had, deadly force was used. The threat was stopped, but it was a pucker moment because we had nothing in between us and that person. And let me tell you something: 30 feet of distance, and you're in kind of a shock mode, right? Your brain has to register what's going. That whole OODA loop effect comes in play there. Those are facts. He already decided he's going to come. He already cut up his wife, so we don't have any doubt he's going to try to cut us up. And he's running towards us. And a lot of things go through your mind. And the whole scenario probably lasted under 3 seconds. Probably felt like an hour of time when it's going down. When you reflect on it and you go back and, wow, that was only 3 seconds. But we had nothing to protect. There was no zero barrier. It's an open field type house. Picture it in like the middle of nowhere and just like a house.
Wow.
And there's not even a tree that you could take cover behind. So what do you do in that situation? It sucks. It sucks because you could miss, right?
Yeah.
You could trip, you could fall, you could just be in shock and not even be able to have a barrier till the brain kicks back in like, oh shit, it's survival mode now. There wasn't a vector shield in 2005. 2006, we had another guy, double homicide, comes out of the woodwork, decides to take shots at us. You know what we took cover behind? A skinny-ass telephone pole. It was my favorite friend that day, that telephone pole. But I'll tell you, when them rounds hit that telephone pole, you felt it. And the pucker effect was there again. But now where do you go? Now you're a sitting duck. If I had a shield, like a vector shield in that moment in time, I could have moved. I could have moved and moved off the X. And engaged. But shit, engage. Where do you move at that point? You're praying the guy ran.
Yeah.
He's not going to ambush you. But in the moment, you don't know that. So, and again, here we are. How many years later, we could be in that same scenario. And most agencies give you absolutely nothing. They give you a vet.
Right.
The agency I'm in now, I'm fortunate. They provide us, the ballistic helmets, the bigger tactical vest for scenarios for.
I see that, Pete. I see that. I see that now. We go into departments where they don't have helmets. They're lucky they have hard plates. Some of them don't have hard plates.
So going back, we've evolved nothing. There's zero. There's no. The law enforcement is not evolved. You know what's evolved? The nice lights, the cool looking cars, the this, the that. All that bullshit that doesn't even save your life. Because in my opinion, those bright lights get you killed on the side of the road because they're like deer in the headlights. Everybody's like fixated on these bright ass lights. You can't see where the officer is, and then you ram into his car. That's my opinion.
And we see that happen. We see it happen all the time.
Unfortunately.
Pete,
unfortunately, that's the number 2 killer in our profession: vehicle death.
Right. How did you hear about us, Pete?
I actually heard about you while I was in Florida, and it was through, I'm trying to remember, a friend of mine was speaking about you guys up in Kissimmee, and then I Googled it, and I found your webpage, and that's how I heard about you guys. And then I reached out to Wendy, and then the connection was made. But it was through word of mouth. A Kissimmee officer was telling me about the Vector Shield.
That's how most officers, that's how, we don't even have a marketing plan. Most of our advertisement has always been through word of mouth. And again, we go into a department, it's like, hey, we love the product. We're gonna, hey, we call this department, that. We're like, no. And they said, please call. We don't do SHOT Show. We don't do any of that stuff. We spend all of our time, as you know, training, going to department, going in hands-on, letting people use the shield, training. I don't want to waste time going to some trade show. I don't feel it protects the officers. I just don't. I'll go and do training for free. We'll go and do what we have to do to get into a department and to do this because, you know, we're committed. I think we met in person after like a 14-hour. I think it was a 14-hour drive.
And Peyton and we had been talking for about a year or two prior, I think, before we were able to get to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was almost 2 years to date, to be exact. So, you know, I appreciate that you guys stayed in contact and we kept the relationship going because I tell you what, it's been a world of difference for me having this shield. I'm sitting in my patrol car right now and the shield's right next to me. And it's my level of being able to know that I can deploy this shield and it's going to stop that threat or de-escalate that threat. And I know a lot of guys out there thinking, oh yeah, I know the shield. They have no idea because they can't. This is not a tool that I can just describe to you till you put it on your arm and you use it. Will you really realize what this is? And that extra level of comfort. You know, I ask guys all the time, would you go to work without putting on your vest? And they'll say, hell no. Well, you know what I say now? Not only would I not go to work without putting on my vest, I wouldn't go to work without having my Vector Shield next to me. Those are facts. Because that, to me, has become just as important as putting on this vest and strapping on my sidearm. Those are facts. That's real talk, and that's being out here in the real world. This is no bullshit. This is no gimmick. This is no sales pitch. You know, it's not about that. It's about saving lives and giving that level of comfort to know that I have an extra layer of protection now at my disposal instantly.
You know, and it's like we were talking about the other day, because, see, I have the privilege of hearing from all these officers all over the country. And I get a call from you, and the concern was this. Driving down 600 feet of open road on the side off a main highway, and they know you're coming. And again, now you know that you have something to put in front of you as you're driving to protect you.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, that was something that on the fly, you know, I get this call, and it's a domestic, and I'm like, shit, this is scary. This is a long-ass driveway. This guy could be perched up with a gun and just waiting to plug holes into my windshield. And I said, shit, let me take the shield. And I put the shield up in front of my steering wheel. I pulled my steering wheel out, right, because the steering wheel moves back and forth now, all these nice conveniences in these modern police cars. And being able to move the steering wheel and be able to put that shield up and maintaining holding that shield on the handle, bracing my arm, and then putting it up in front of my face instead of the way I used to do it is kind of like duck down and, you know, like wing it to go down and go, hope I don't hit anything and peek up every now and then because I don't know if there's a threat there. I just don't know. I'm going into an unknown. It could be nothing. You know, some people say I'm paranoid. I say, no, I'm aware. There's a difference between being paranoid and being situationally aware of a scenario that you're going into. And having that shield was amazing. And I think I called you that day to say, hey, I don't know if you've ever utilized it this way, but this shit works. And it put that level of protection in front of me that I knew that it would stop rifle. I knew that guy didn't have anything more powerful than a rifle if he did have anything. And it turned out to be nothing. But to know that I went down there and that comfort level, that I'm safe, and I'm going to make it down this driveway to go there and be able to help that person that called 911 and still be safe doing it. And then guess what? When I got there, shield came out with me because now I deployed it. It's all in my forearm. So, I mean, it's an amazing tool, Bobby. I can't speak I mean, I love what you guys have created. I do, and I think I'm
Thanks,
your
Pete.
biggest fan.
Thank you.
And because I use it every day, I'm using it. It's an extension. It's like I said, I don't leave my house with it. It's part of me, like my vest and my sidearm and everything else that I carry. You know, I don't carry a taser. I don't carry an ASP. You know, those are things that are issued to every cop. You know, ask any cop that you ever interview how many times they've used their ASP baton. Ask them. Please do. I promise you it's going to be less than 2%.
I believe that from what we've heard. And there was interesting some things that you said. Your sixth sense. We run into a lot of veteran officers that say that have saved them, and Bobby too in his service. And then hiding behind things that don't provide true cover. Bobby said that when they were out in the field, sometimes they'd have to jump behind a rucksack.
Yeah, so the SOPs are going behind a rucksack, or, you know, like you said, Pete, you're in an open area, and now you're looking around for cover, and you're like, well, where do I go? What do I do? There's nothing here. So, you know, can it provide cover for me? And again, that's part of the training, you know, lay down, prone position, vector up in front. And you know.
Oh, the training's great.
Thank you.
And some officers had asked Pete or said that it seemed like the vector might slow them down or be an inconvenience. Would you say it slows down or speeds up your operational tempo?
No, it's definitely not an inconvenience. I mean, listen, I listened to your podcast the other day, and it's about 8 pounds, right? That's correct
Yep.
description of the weight. If you can't carry an extra 8 pounds on your right or left arm, then you need to get out of this line of work. Go do something else. You know, you're already carrying an extra 40 pounds, 30 to 40 pounds every day. If you can't adjust to carry an extra 8 pounds, no, it doesn't. So let me give you an example. Yesterday we had a warrant, and we had a plan. We had an op plan, which, you know, never goes the way it's planned. It never goes that way. And the guy ends up coming out, but he comes to me. He sees me, comes to me. Well, I got the shield on my left forearm. I'm right-handed, and keep the shield on my left. I actually switched my watch too. I wear my watch on my right wrist now.
Oh, that's good.
You can't have a watch.
Good
on.
student.
So,
That's
so
good.
my watch is on my right hand, so I never have that issue. And he came to me, well, shit, you know, he's arms up, suspect's arms up, and I got to do a pat down. Well, that's not something, you know, I ever went over, but it was on the fly. And let me tell you, you know, I used the shield. I put it against him so he could feel that, you know, I'm in contact with him. And it felt good having the shield there. And I did a pat down with no issues. And I just broke the body up into quadrants and did a full pat down with the shield. And my chief afterwards, who was on scene, even made a comment, said, wow, did you learn that? I said, I was actually on the fly. But that's how versatile the shield is, that even on the fly, when you got to adapt to a situation, because you guys know in this line of work, you know, nothing goes as planned, and you got to adapt and overcome. Well, what am I going to do there? Put the shield down? No. If there was a big shield, I would have had to. But with this shield, it was so easy. I can't wait to show you guys and do a video about it because it was flawless.
We love that. You know, we hear from officers all over the country. I would say at least twice a week that call us and say, hey, have you thought about this? And they bring us such innovative stuff. We said, hey, we're using it for this. We're porting, we're breaching, we're doing this. Now, I've had other departments see someone handcuff someone with the Vector Shield, and even though, you know, we don't teach that, what happens is it becomes such an extension of an officer's arm that they start to now say, hey, they can move around with it. They can rotate out because of the 3-point retention system. They can use 2 hands. So it's not really, you're not just one hand. I don't think people understand because they really haven't seen it, but they don't know the rotation where you can rotate your hand outside of the shield and it can still stay on your arm.
You can't. So I don't use a mic. I don't use one of those cord mics. I use cordless. I use old school, just radio, no mic. I can't stand the mic wrapped up on my show. I hate all that stuff. So if they're calling me and I have that shield and my radio's on my left side of my duty belt, I can just wiggle out of that handle, reach down, grab my radio, or depress the button with ease with the shield still on my arm. So I agree with you there. It's very, very easy to maneuver around.
What would you say, Pete, is the most important thing that the shield allows you to do, or the best attribute of the Vector?
The Vector gives me that, like I said, that it's for my own personal, that comfort level to know that I have this piece of equipment that I could deploy anywhere and everywhere. It's not intimidating. It's very user friendly. You know, I use them on traffic stops. I use them while I'm on a detail, extra duty details, directing traffic. The versatility of it, and just to know, and it's not intimidating. You know, some people notice it, and it's a conversation starter, right? And people want to engage with you. Hey, what is that? I had a young kid yell going, "Oh, look, Dad, there's Captain America," driving by while I was directing traffic.
Aw.
That's awesome.
You know,
that is awesome.
It's cool. You know, and that's what I love about it, that it's not intimidating. It's versatile. It's light. It's there. And I know that it's going to protect me to the utmost. You utilize the right way. You got to go through the training, though, because, Bobby, you bring a lot of dynamic to the training that if you just put it in someone's hand, you know, they're not going to understand
Correct.
the way the shield works or what it's done. And then once you get the training, you're going to
build on it.
Do things
Yep.
correct. And that's a normal growth process of this. Just like when, you know, you issue somebody a new gun and a new holster, everybody's going to draw a certain way or position the gun a certain, but you got to learn those fundamentals. And I think it's important, the training that you give, and I commend you guys that you guys come down here, and you did, both of you, and that was huge to me, that not only was the owner of Vector Shields, the creator of Vector Shields, but you came, and that meant a lot, because if you didn't give a shit, Bobby, and it was all about that dollar, you'd have sent anybody but yourself to come down here, because you could teach anybody, right? You could train anybody to learn your tactics, and at the end of the day, you would just send someone. But you came down, showed me you had a vested interest in the shield and in the officers that it's going to serve.
It means a lot to us. It really does. And we go out there, and I mean, my whole life has been, you know, train, assist, and advise. But it's always been about, you know, you gotta go where people are training. You have to go where you're hearing the thinking and the actions, and people are going to have questions. And, you know, I'm not always asking for the good. Like, don't tell me the good. Tell me the bad. Tell me what you don't like about it. Tell me what you hate about it. Do you want me to fix it? Do you want us to work on it together? But, Pete, I've found out that once I show the basics of central line protection, protect the central line, all of a sudden, with all the experience from all different walks of life, from narcotics and SWAT, SRT, and all of that, they start now saying, oh, I see a light bulb go off, and they say, I can use it for this. I can use it for this. They know. So as soon as I run through the basics and I say, okay, keep center line protection, don't put the shield beyond your lead foot. You know, we go through the whole class that we go through, even the shield history, because it has so much to do with it. Once we get right. Go ahead. You can talk.
It does, and I learned a lot that day. I mean, listen, you know, I always say, you're always learning, you're always evolving, and when you stop, that's when bad things happen. And, you know, I never knew about Hicks Law till you came. I never knew about George Silver's paradox of defense. You know, the flinch response, when you explained it, it makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, the flinch response it's reflex first reaction, like you described it.
Yes.
And you said that reflex is quicker than a thought about a response. And that's true.
You know what's amazing?
We're not getting that training.
Yeah, you know what's amazing is, like, we have to answer the reason. We have to answer the question why. So, like OODA loop, what's the other half of it? Well, Hicks Law. You know, the less you have to do to respond to a threat, the quicker you'll become. So because with my background in medicine, you know, even on the teams, I've been to all the good shooting schools, but I've also been to the really good medical schools. So what happens is, you know, now you have to put in how it works. I want to know why it works. Because I'm not just giving a tool. When we go through training, we're programming an operating system. So we're taking, you know, thousands of years of shield training from Spartans, Romans, Vikings, all that, and then we're now saying, hey, instead of facing a 3-foot arrow, you're now facing, you know, a 1 to 2 inch bullet. So now you've got to stay protected because we're stopping the same threats, right, Pete? So it all plays in,
absolutely.
Right? And you know, tell me George Silver wasn't brilliant.
Yes, absolutely.
True
and
time.
Again, I didn't know about this. So you brought it, you know, and here I was, you know, 18 years in, and you opened my world to a whole new world of defense and thought process and thinking. I'll tell you what, I posed that question to veteran cops all over this county. Hey, man, have you heard about this? What, Hicks Law? Nah. Heard of the OODA loop? Yeah, absolutely. But they haven't heard of Hicks Law. When I explain it to them, and I explain that that flinch response, the reflex first reaction, the light bulb goes off in every cop's head because those are facts. Those
Right.
are facts. And that's what I love, that the shield, that the training that you gave with it was just top notch. It really was, Bobby.
Thanks. I appreciate
commend
that.
you guys for it. Those are truth. Those are life-saving things.
But
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you know,
awesome.
you know what it is? It's funny because when people say, "Oh, it's just a shield," it's not really what we instruct. But when we go there and we start talking about science and well, how does science play into it? How does cranial nerves play into it? How does how does it all play into it? And then when you start going through the 7 pillars and we start to learn that, hey, even if you're number 2, when someone draws a weapon on you at 200 milliseconds, you can still beat them. We still can flinch up, right? We can beat them, protect our center line, transition to our tools. We can do that. You've done it.
Yep, absolutely. That's why I said you gotta put it on. You gotta run it. We can talk about it. We could describe it all day, and I encourage officers, anybody that's listening, you gotta run the shield. You gotta run the shield to really appreciate what it's doing and what it was designed for. Because it's not just a shield. You know, the big shield will get you to the door, like we always say. That's it. Don't try to enter a close quarters area with that, because it's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not. We always leave it at the door. Everybody leaves the big shield at the door.
Or in the trunk. Sometimes it doesn't make it
Or
out
in
of
the
the
trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the
in the
trunk.
trunk.
But you know, I know that if you can get to your objective quicker and faster at a higher op tempo, then you can do your job. And that's really what we do, is we build tools to keep you safe while you're entering into that funnel, while you're doing that dangerous stuff that you do daily. I mean, what blows my mind is that we talk to officers daily who go into a fatal funnel, do traffic stop with weapons, you know, standing between them and a subject during a domestic. I mean, stuff that you do every day. You know, we have to build those tools to keep you all safe.
I deployed on every traffic stop, period.
And what happens?
Because traffic stops are unknown. They're all unknown. We never know. You don't know who you're stopping. So every traffic stop, it's deployed to the point now where it's just an unconscious thought. There's no thought. It's just boom, shield, traffic stop, go.
That's what
Get out.
Iman said yesterday.
You know,
There is no such thing as a routine stop.
Approaches.
Go ahead.
No, there is nothing routine about police. I hate that word, routine.
Yeah.
Police work's random. There's nothing routine about police work. I can't stand that word. I always do passenger side approaches. I always have since day one. It wasn't taught to me. It was just that Spidey sense that told me, yeah, you know what, it's a better approach from this side. Unless obviously I can't. But you know, now ever since I've had the shield, it's shield deployed on every traffic stop. Matter of fact, calls too. I mean, it's very rare that you see Pete out of his car without the shield on his forearm.
That's awesome, Pete. And what you guys were saying about theory and that we met with the U.S. Marshals at FLETC, and there was a question Bobby asked. Was it about Hicks Law? Or
It was about the Hicks Law to a lot of the shield instructors, and they all raised their hand.
And that was the only agency or department that knew what that was.
That ever knew what the Hicks Law was, and I was impressed. But you know what?
That's impressive.
But we have to work to get, you know, this George Silver's work out there. We have to work to get Hicks Law. We have to, you know, reaction time. There's so much work, and again, not giving away too much of the training, because I think once people come into the training, every single time I'm done with the training, I look at every officer and I said, hey, was this what you thought it would be? And they all laugh and they said, absolutely not. Nothing like I even thought. Nothing remotely what we thought.
I didn't. I mean, like I said, you opened my mind to a whole new world. And you can't ever be too proud. You got to stay humble in this profession. And I don't have ego. You know, I'll sit here and say it on air. I have no idea what Hicks Law was. I had no idea who George Silver was. I had no idea about the flinch response. I do now, and what I'm doing now is each one teach one, right? I'm spreading that. Every officer I come in contact with, I bring them up to speed. I educate them. You know, I pick their brain, and you know, some of them take it, and then you got those ones that, you know, it is what it is, right? You can't help everyone. But I know they walk away and Google that shit regardless of what they say to me. I promise you that.
Yeah. And that's funny too, because people always say like why do you do that? Like the dazzle pattern is one thing. We just did this one. We did a dazzle pattern, and someone asked me, hey, what is a dazzle pattern? I said, well, it's a camouflage pattern that was developed in World War I. And then we explain to it how it is for officers, for police officers, and how it causes predatory confusion. So we put a lot of science. I mean, we're literally on the phone with doctors every day. We're always trying to rewrite, make something better. I ask questions. Hey, how do lions not see zebras on the plains of Africa? I mean, we look at black and white zebras. Why don't they see it? Simple question, right? Can't answer it. And again, I want people to think about that question and then just look it up. But we go into a lot of those questions because history has a lot to play, right? Spartans, keep the center line protected. We talk a little bit about, a trivia question. Why does Spartan wear a red cape? I asked that question, and people think I'm joking when I ask that question. And I said, has anyone ever heard of PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency? Primary use was, hey, we're a Spartan. We show it. And then when they were bleeding, they didn't want the enemy to see them bleeding, so they'd bleed into their red cape. They also used it as a field expedient litter to drag themselves off the battlefield. They also used it to cut pieces off of it as a tourniquet. And they also used it as a burial shroud. And they used it when they were traveling and they would have to lay down and go to sleep. They would wrap themselves in their own cape. And, we forgot that the ancients had technology that we really can learn. We can do something. I've been asked because I was Steven Seagal's head of security, right? Love Steven, and and that's how I get introduced to law enforcement. Through his work with law enforcement. But people ask me this question all the time: is he quick? And I said his hands are like lightning. And they asked me, and I said, no, it's not. It's not made up. It's not. He's a very dangerous person with his hand. He'll hurt you. He's 6'5", and he's like lightning. I mean, I've had him. We were stacking one time, and he pushed me on the door, and I looked at him, and I'm like, dude, you're ready. You almost killed me. Like, don't do that. And but he's very committed, but he's quick as lightning, and that goes back to true time, false time, right? The hands are quicker than the feet.
Yeah.
Right? And we talk about that. So when you're approaching a car and you can flinch and your hands can operate instead of stepping back and closing that 200 millisecond window, Pete, when I see really good history, like, because I'm an avid reader. I read all the time, but it has to be something that's related. Right? It has to be brain food. It has to be, exactly. And I was reading really quick. I was reading about Alexander the Great and how it was a book called What If, and he had a bodyguard named Cletus, and they called him Cletus the Black. But what happened was he was 22 years old. Now listen to how equipment can save lives. Now he's 22 years old, and he was hit. I think it's Scididius, the person who hit him. He was a Persian, but he hit him in the head with an axe. The first one broke the helmet, but it didn't penetrate, right? It just knocked him off his horse. So he hit him at full speed with an axe, broke his helmet, he fell on the ground. Right before the second axe was going to come down, Cletus, the bodyguard, right, threw a spear, killed him. And he saved Alexander's life. But what would have happened if Alexander would have been killed by that first axe blow? Right? It would have killed him, would have hit him in the head with that helmet saved his life. And I had people tell me, I don't wear helmets, I don't need shields, and I just sit and look at them in complete amazement when they tell me that.
Yeah, that's just,
right?
That's ignorance.
Yeah, because you need multiple layers of armament.
Stupidity.
Multiple layers of armament. Wendy, you want to jump in there?
Absolutely.
I was just going to say what Pete was saying about being transparent. We want to be transparent with all that we do. And the best thing that we can do for officers who are interested in our product is for them to try it. Like you said, we offer a 30-day T&E with anyone who wants to try our shield and would like to be trained on it. We do offer that. We want to hear from anything, and just in full transparency, what would you say is like the biggest, I wouldn't say issue, but the con about the shield? Is there anything that you would say that could be better? Or
what I've noticed, sure, absolutely. I've been carrying it now for 3.5 months. The only con, and again, it's cosmetic. It has nothing to do with the shield. Right? The shield's top notch, zero. The handle's top notch. The straps, they start to wear, they fold in, especially the way I store mine is in between the B pillar on the passenger side and my passenger seat. I shove it in between there because I can actually reach over, it's arm length away with my right hand, snatch it and deploy it very, very quickly. I practice it, I drill it You know, in the morning, I start my car. We all check our lights. We check this. We check that. Well, I deploy the shield. You know, so it becomes muscle memory. It becomes an unconscious thought under threat. Shield's there. I grab it, and I know where it's going to land when I grab it. It's not going to come flail because it's no joke. It'll bust right through the window if I let it fly. It's just the straps. The straps are could be improved on. Mm-hmm. But again, this is what, first generation, Bobby, second on this shield?
I don't know which straps you have. As a matter of fact, that we have upgraded the straps.
Do you have the lightweight straps or the heavy duty straps?
It's the heavy duty,
okay.
Velcro.
Okay, they don't have a metal bar on them. They don't have a metal clasp on the straps, do they?
It does. It has a metal clasp.
It has a metal clasp. Okay. We need to send you a beefier set.
Yes. We have winter, summer straps. So you're going to need winter straps.
That's all. That's it. That's it. And awesome. Again, that's cosmetic. That's nothing that, you know, you always say, hey, feedback. Here's your feedback. I guarantee you're gonna work on that.
That's awesome. Wear those straps out. Wear them out. Wear them out.
Right, and I have. So, you know, it's the bottom strap. The top strap's fine. It's that bottom one. You know, that's the one that seems to just want to, you know, crinkle up and because I don't store it. I know you guys give the back too, but for the back, for me, it's too much. It's hindrance to reach in. The way I have it, it's perfect. And, you know, each his own. Some guys might want to put it under their seat, whatever. Whatever works for you. I always tell people there is no set rule on your equipment. It's what works for you. You know, those agents just say, you must wear your magazine pouch on this side and your cuffs here. Fuck all that. Listen, you wear it on your belt where it's going to be accessible to you quickly and efficiently to save your life. I don't believe in that. So for me, this is where it fits in a patrol car. It doesn't move. I can floor it. I can hit the gas. It doesn't move. It works for me. I can reach it. And that's it. That's the only con. Again, that's a cosmetic thing. It has nothing to do with the shield.
Well, you notice, Pete, this is great because we offer the lifetime warranty on the shield, like the shield itself. And then Wendy will always say, because the straps get worn so quickly, you know, again, they're Velcro. And what we wanted to make is we don't want to belt them onto your arm because in case you have to drop it and, you know, for whatever reason, we have to go with the Velcro because we need to have quick accessibility, but we can't be strapping that to your arm because if you have to drop it in a situation or move around it, right?
No, I get that. I get that part. Absolutely. But you guys asked, that's the only con.
Awesome.
That's not a con to me. That's a cosmetic con. That's stupid. The shield, there is no con. The shield's amazing.
The only other question I had, you sent us a picture and we blurred out your face and we did show it. And I think on your cover, isn't there a couple sim rounds where the marks where you were shooting sim rounds on it?
Yeah, I took it in a shoot house, and so I'll tell you, so I went in the shoot house first without the shield, and I went up against some really good, there's some tier 1 guys that come and train down here in West Texas, and I was blessed with the opportunity to run with these guys, and Bobby, you come from that world, you know that's like, you know, putting a kindergartner, Pop Warner into the NFL.
It's awesome.
It's just not going to fly. And you know, I got lit up in one of the scenarios. I had no shield. I went in, and I took a round right to the face. I didn't even see the guy. I mean, he was just like, bloop. And I took a sim round right to the lip. I instantly felt it. It was harsh. The next round, I went in with the shield, and I started taking those corners and running down and going down those hallways and filling into those rooms with the shield. And guess what? Tier 1 guys or not, them rounds hit that shield. They ain't hit me in my face again. And it was a good feeling because I didn't get killed, you know, in a scenario-based training scenario with sim rounds. I always look at it when I get shot, fuck, I died that day, and that's how I leave because it's a learning experience for me, right? And I lit that room up, and I didn't even see the guy, and then the round came, you know, it was that quick. But the second time I went in the shoot house, I took the rounds onto the shield, and those guys are like, man, that's good shit. So, and these are tier 1 guys, you know.
That's awesome.
And it was a great feeling. You know, you feel good. You know, I went up against some tier 1 guys, and yeah, they lit up the shield and they took shots, and eventually they ambushed us and killed us all, which is they should because that's what they do for a living. But you know, I took some rounds on the shield, and it felt great to know that, man, I went up against some tier 1 guys, and the shield was there, and their shield took those rounds, and not me. You know, so, you know, in real world, I'm going against, you know, probably Joe Schmuckatelli had too many beers, and he's just going to throw some rounds down the hallway. It was just a good feeling, you know, and I could just be lying to myself because I felt good that day because they were tier 1 guys. But
no, the thing is, but
worked.
yeah,
Listen, I had it at the shoot house. I mean, and I'm not a big fan of the long rifles. The shield works really. I'm not a fan of long rifles to begin with. I like small, subcompact. I love using with the handgun. It's amazing. You can maneuver and run and gun with that all day long. With the long gun, it gets tiresome, it gets burdensome. But if you need to post up with a long gun, to cover a group or cover a house on an A side or B side or whatever from 20 yards out, you could post up nice, prone out, and put that shield up in front of you, hike that rifle to the right, and you're covered. Your whole body's covered.
We have an adapter coming on for that. We have an adapter coming out for the rifle hold, and
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure you get it. But it'll be it's so easy to put on and so easy to take off. But it'll just be clip, and it's on, and that will hold your M4. And it's not going to interfere. It's not going to interfere with any of your bells and whistles, any of your lights or anything that's on there.
But if, like I said, if you prone out and you're on a rifle and your job is to cover, and you're on that rifle and you're on Overwatch, you're good. I'm telling you, you could sit there and lay there all day and you put that right in front of your face and you're covered. You're covered all day long.
We've had SWAT teams tell us that. They've actually, before they would have to pick and choose where they would go prone. Now they can go out, and we have some teams on some of the federal governments on the border, or some of the Fed, where they can take a what's bungee cord, and they wrap it around the shield, and they stuff it full of leaves, and then you would look out and swear that you're looking at a bush, but they're actually behind armor. I mean, they're behind, they're laying in the prone position with their M4 rifle up, and you can't even see them. It's amazing, and all these things that keep getting added on because by the users are saying, operationally, we like to do this, we do this, and it filters right back to us. They call us on the phone because, as you know, Pete, we answer the phone 24 hours a day.
You do.
We do.
We,
no
us.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Wendy does.
Let's give Wendy props here.
The phone is answered 24 hours a day. How's that?
Wendy answers that phone.
That is so true.
It's important because we love what we do, and I love hearing from you. We love hearing from you guys. Absolutely. That pretty much answers all the technical questions that we had for you. I guess as a whole, Bobby and I wanted to ask you where you see how we could better serve you, or what things can we bring about to better help law enforcement in the political climate, and with what you're doing technically. Is there something that we can do as a company?
And we're working right now on the virtual training, so we'll be able to provide more like click on 4 hours of training, because I don't have to show an officer how to use their weapon. They know how to use their weapon. We just have to program them to show them, not even using the word programming, but readjust the hard drive in the brain and showing how they can operate with this in conjunction with their weapon, their tools, walking up to a car. Once they see it, like yourself, once you see it, they have it. I don't have to tell them; they have it.
It's seeing it though.
No, this shield sells itself. If you're a cop and you're out there and you're doing this job, if you're retired on duty, you're not going to like it. The guy retired on duty doesn't even, I don't think he cleans his gun or even chambers around, unfortunately. But the guys that are out there, real world, and they're dealing with this every day, are going to know instantly when they use the shield, when they get the training with the shield. I mean, it's instant. And any cop that tells me it's not, I'm telling them they're full of shit. They're just haters. You're going to have haters out there. I'm telling you, I'm a cop's cop. And I love our law enforcement community, and my big thing is about saving lives. There was an officer prior to me arriving in Texas, in Richardson, who lost his life going into a guy, murdered guy. He murdered this guy downstairs from him. They knew he was in the house, and this guy was a SWAT operator. He wasn't just Joe Patrolman. He was a SWAT operator. And he walks in and he took a round. The guy was proned out in the hallway on the other end and let one round loose from the rifle, and he took it right in the neck. He had enough life in him and fight in his life, and he had that will to survive, that he actually, instead of staying in that fatal funnel of buckling down and causing more officers to get killed, he got out of there, and then he collapsed outside. In hindsight, right, 2020, had they went in and they had some type of protection, anything, the shield especially, I don't think we'd be telling the same story. And I know there's people out there that might disagree, and they can say whatever they want. But the tactics are proven, and the shield stops 5.56, right? 7.62, Bobby.
Yep. Multiple
yeah,
strikes.
That's what he was shot with.
Yeah,
multiple strikes.
I mean, they're never going to shoot just once. They're just not going to shoot once.
And you know what, Bobby? Maybe he would have died. I don't know. Maybe it would have took one in the femoral artery. I know. We could say whatever we want, but I'll tell you this. I know he had nothing in his hands.
You know, Pete,
he had nothing in body armor.
We say about giving an officer a fighting chance, and that's the thing right? Just, ready? I want the chance. You put me into a dangerous situation, I just want a chance.
So that's the point of my story. He had no chance. And if he had had a shield, which I feel that this shield should be issued to every officer and every agency in the United States like they issue those stupid apps. I'm being honest, and it angers me, and I get real passionate about it because I've been on this job long enough. I've buried personal friends, and I've been to many and many other funerals for fallen officers, and I go to D.C. once every 2 years for Police Week because I give a shit, and it angers me that the knowledge isn't there. The egos are still in place. And when you ask, what could we do as a company? Keep doing what you're doing. And round up those officers like myself and whoever out there is listening and has a chance to get the shield in their hand and use the shield and deploy it every day. And we need to be the voice, along with you guys, so it becomes a piece of equipment that's issued, like an app, like a taser, and all that other stuff that they give you. Because you know what? Under force continuum, this is lower than all of them. How about that? Let's start there. Right. You know, because it's a great de-escalation piece of equipment. It's part of de-escalation. Everybody's using that word now. It's a new word. Let's de-escalate. Let's de-escalate. That's great. Let's de-escalate. But what do I have on my belt that if that situation goes from de-escalating to now a violent situation, because sometimes you just can't rationalize with a rational, well, now I have something else, that extra layer of protection, like you said, that fighting chance. And there's no reason that an 8-pound, small, versatile shield that can stop multiple threats is not issued to all of us. And it's the only reason it's not because people just don't know. It's ignorance. That's all it is. So that's the answer to your question. Keep doing what you're doing. Build on this social media platform. Build on the podcast platform. Let's keep it moving. I tell you, I'm one of your biggest fans because I'm here. I'm doing the real world every single day. And that's it. That's all we got to do. We all have to band together, put egos to the side. You know, those internet keyboard commandos, whoever they are, they want to make comments. Who cares? You want to sling mud, sling mud. I don't care. I don't care. I care about the lives we can save. You know, and I'm telling you that this shield will save lives.
Thanks, Pete. You know, what bothers us, and I don't say bother, but it really hurts us, you know, when you see another officer bringing problems and saying, oh, this is bullshit, without really even seeing something. Like, and I said, listen, call me on the phone. I'll answer any one of your questions. Just call me.
They won't call you. They won't call you.
Yeah, they don't. They won't. Having them. You know. Oh, hold on. I'm going to press the button. This is part of the machine. When I say, hey.
We literally have put our number up for thousands of officers.
And this is what happens. The cricket button.
We're working on the podcast equipment.
Yeah, we're working on the podcast equipment. That's funny.
But we did. We had some good officers. We had some great officers reach out. We've had some departments reach out. We've gone up to the upper command staff quickly. We've actually had quite a few people come out on social media and apologize publicly and say that they were sorry and they didn't realize.
Because we're not telling our tactics. We're not telling you how police do operational procedures. I'm sorry, but we're not telling you. Like, we're not going to be that internet company that's going to go out there and say, hey, let me show you how to shoot and do. No, we're not doing that. Because we have to give our officers that tactical advantage. Because you all only have a second or two to make that decision, and if you can put something between you and the threat that's going to make you even a percentage safer, right? So you can get to your tools, then we're doing our job.
That's it. That's the bottom line. I mean, listen, it's not rocket science here. You know, you guys introduced something that needs to be a part. I'm telling you this, and I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to scream as loud as I can on the highest mountains to everybody that will listen. This needs to be, and listen, the good thing is that I deploy it, and I have guys constantly, what is that? What is this? Cops, because, cops love trinkets. They love the gadgets. They love all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the command staff that makes the decision to buy it. But then I tell them, hey, guys, buy it yourself if you have to. And that's the message I'm trying to get across to people. If you got to buy it yourself, invest in yourself, eventually, I promise you, I see this being a piece of issued equipment, standard issued, like everything else, because it's going to happen. You guys are in your infancy still. I know you are, How long, Bobby, how long have you been at this?
6 years.
Okay, 6 years. But you haven't really, you're just starting your podcast. You guys are just starting social media. That's the era we're in. We're in that age of social media and podcasts.
We've grown so much because when I first started out, it was on the back of a pizza box, and then I bought a sheet of.
You told me that. I love it. I tell that story all the time.
I bought it. I saw a police officer.
It looks like it was cut out of a pizza box.
And I saw an officer get shot, and I said, I can build something that can stop that. Just the whole thing just came, and then what happened? I bought a sheet of steel. We made one, sold one, made two, sold two, made five, sold five. And then what happens, as the training is evolving and the training is getting better and better, and we're going up to more agencies and we're hitting the federal government, we're training in New York City, we're down in Texas, we're everywhere. But what happens, again, slow, controlled growth, because the worst thing for a company to have happen is to say, hey, our product line isn't where it should be. Like, the thing is that we build a product that goes between life and death. It's not like I'm building sneakers, right, Pete? I'm building something that that the last thing an officer has to place between himself or herself in death is our product. So I have to make sure it's beyond the best it can possibly be. And what I build, I would put my grandson behind it. And I truly,
I believe it.
I 100%, from the bottom of my heart, when I see an officer, and it keeps me awake at nighttime, if I could just get to them before they walked up to that car, or before that person turned around and shot a bullet at them, if we can just get to them and say, hey, let me show you this. Let me train you on this. Let's talk about this. New tools, new tactics, new training, things that are happening. We have a chance in this country to really lead the world. I was down in Colombia. We were down in Colombia with the Colombian National Police, right? Mm-hmm. And Colonel Juan Carlos, the head of the Colombian National Police, he actually takes out his cell phone and he was showing us how many officers they lost that week. I mean, just picture after picture after picture after picture. And then, when he said something, he said, you know what, someday America is going to be at this level too. And then now I open the paper up and it's like, it's common. It's something common to look at, but I don't think people understand that if someone's shooting a police officer, they're going to shoot you they'll easily shoot you in a traffic incident or in a domestic or not coming to your front door.
Not question.
And 25,000 people are killed by home invasions every year across America. I look at the stats and it blows my mind. I look at, over 40 officers were killed last year. Over 30 had on body armor. They're shooting you in the neck and face. That's where the bullets
are.
Right? So what do we have?
They are. That's what they're training. What they're training.
Yes.
That's what they're training. Yeah. I worked in an inner city where they told me we shoot headshot because you're wearing body armor. This is a guy that committed homicide. He was in custody. Who I had rapport with. Again, I used to say I'm the consequence. It's not personal. I'm not mad at you. I don't hate you. None of that. I'm just the consequence. So I always had that good rapport out on the streets with people. Bad guys, good guys, it didn't matter. And that's why I never got jammed up in anything, because I never took it to that. I never took things personal. The job, broke the law, I'm the consequence. End of story. Once you're in custody, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to degrade you. I'm not going to spit on you. I'm not going to shit on you. We're going to have a conversation. Why? Because I want to pick your brain. I want to pick the brain of a killer. That's what I wanted to do. And I did. And each one of them would tell me officer presence was a big factor if they were going to use force or not use force. That was huge. And how that officer looked and how he approached him was a deciding factor if he was going to shoot him or not shoot him. Think about that.
That's interesting.
Wow.
And then they said, we train to shoot you guys in the head. But that's how we shoot. And they might listen. You know, it's crazy. People say bad guys don't have good aim. That's crazy because statistically, cops have shitty aim. I think NYPD released a study that had an 18% hit ratio in NYPD.
Right.
That's insane, right? So, guys, the shield is the real deal, period. This was the missing link. I wish I had this. I'm in my 18th year. This the missing link. It really is. And I can't even put it into words. It sucks that I can't put it into words. But you guys are doing the right thing. The
Thanks,
podcast.
Pete.
You got to do the social media. People want to see. They want to see it. Everybody's visual now.
Well, they want to hear. They want to hear from police officers. They want to hear. They want to hear from their brothers and sisters.
I said, put this on. I'm gonna hit you with a bat. He's like, you're crazy. I thought you told the shit. And I showed him. And when I hit him full force, okay. And I'm a fit guy. I consider myself very strong. And I hit him so hard with that bat, I hurt my own wrist. Okay. He felt nothing. He was blown away. Blown away.
And that's why we're up in Portland during the riots. We're up there, and there's a lot of things that have been happening. And you're right. We're a small company, and we like to stay small because I always want to be that company that when an officer picks up the phone and says, "Hey, I need this," or I want to be able to respond and go and do that. I don't want to be so big that hey, let's send a rep. Our biggest advertisers are officers that are using it, and we always tell people, don't ask us, ask I'll give you the name of a department that's using it. Talk to them, and because it's I don't want to sound like it's a sales pitch. Like, hey, but again, we were so secret that nobody knew what we were doing. So it kind of is it's a good and bad thing. We're so secret. We were invited down to Fort Bragg to one of those units that have no names and says, "Hey, we love your equipment," and it was like, really. But that's what we work on all the time, So now we're getting out there, we're talking to everybody, we're doing the podcast, and we're specifically for law enforcement with, talking about these issues. And everybody wants to hear how tools can work, like, not a salesman selling you something. I've had big sales companies want to carry our product, and we say no. Because we have to train. Listen, how many guys were at the night we did training with you? We drove 14 hours. How many people were there?
2.
Yes, 2. And we knew it.
2.
And I would go for 1. I would go 14 hours driving for 1 person. And people always say, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." Because I know that it's going to make a big difference, and it could change the life of that 1 person, and maybe, whatever higher being you want to worship, it, not getting political or religious.
Look, Bobby, there's no doubt in my mind that you care. You showed that by coming down, putting the shield in our hands. And, I'm one of those guys that's allergic to bullshit. And you're far from that.
Thank you.
There's no bullshit with you. You're the real deal. I told you, I owe you a huge thank you from the entire law enforcement community, even the ones that don't know yet. What an amazing thing that you invented, this piece of equipment.
Thanks, Pete.
That I know is going to be in every officer's hands.
Means a lot.
That's the goal. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, if I can make some young kid have his father, I think I might have said this. I don't know if I said this on this podcast, but Wendy, remember that time I wasn't feeling good? I went to the hospital, and then this doctor was looking at our shirts, and he goes, "Hey, what do you do?"
The doctor and his father had been.
Listen to this. The doctor's looking at me, and he's looking at the shirt, and he goes, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "We build police shields." I see this look in his face. It was down in Cape Coral. Mm-hmm. He was a doctor in Cape Coral Hospital, and he gets up and he closes the door, and I see a somber look in his face, and he looks at me and he says, "When I was 17 years old, my father was shot and killed. He was a police officer." And I was like, "Whoa!"
Wow.
Think about that, Pete. That's why we do what we do. I have officers that take me aside and said, "Hey, I was shot in the head." Everywhere I go, "Hey, I was shot doing this." And by that doctor saying that to me, and he goes, "You know what? Thank you for what you did, and what you're doing. But maybe I couldn't change his life. We all couldn't change his life because his dad passed away. It's already gone. But you know what? The future is happening. And maybe there's a young kid out there that his dad's going off to work in a couple of days and he's not going to come back. Or his mom's going to come back, and that
Absolutely.
Pete, that's a fact. That's going to happen.
Those are facts.
It's going to happen. And I
as we're talking.
And you know what? and I say this, and people say, "Oh," I said, "Really?" I said, "That's what keeps me awake at night." People say, "Do you sleep?" I said, I don't think so. Like, I don't think so, because if I could get into that car and drive 14, 20 hours to that one police officer that I know is going out on patrol and he can stay alive, then I've done my job. Like, right, we all have a purpose in life. And in my time with learning tactics and, you know, what I did in SF and all my medical stuff, and now I bring it to the people who are protecting our families. And, you know, we can't be prouder. We really can't be. Like, I have purpose, and like Wendy, we say that every day.
We're so thankful.
Every day we're so thankful that we can we get to work with.
Bobby, you said it best. The fighting chance.
Fighting chance.
Is it gonna stop every officer from getting killed? No. Let's be realistic here, people. But we're gonna give the fighting chance. That's how I feel. I have a better fighting chance now with this shield next to me. I can't even put into words that extra level of comfort I have, that I have this extra piece of equipment that gives me an even better of a fighting chance. Oh. That's it. That's what it boils down to. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's going to give me that extra layer of fighting chance that I did not have prior to meeting you guys and starting to deploy the shield. Those are facts. And listen, this is heartfelt. I believe this job. I love this career. You know, this is ingrained in my DNA. I didn't wake up at the age of 40 and go, I think I'm going to go be a cop. I knew it from the time I could think. So it's in my DNA. This was my calling. You know, and that's why I'm passionate. That's why I'm on this podcast, because I believe in you guys. I believe in this shield, and
thank you.
I just want officers to have that fighting chance and that extra layer. Because some guys have the helmets and this and that and the big shield. That's great, but this is that extra layer. This is unlike anything out there. Until you put it on and use it in real world situations and deploy it daily, you're not going to appreciate what I'm saying here. You could chalk it up for I'm just running my mouth and talking out the side of my neck. Or, you know, I'm pushing a product. I'm not pushing shit. I'm not getting paid to say anything. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I care. And I'm here because I've been using this shield, and it's the real deal.
Pete, you know, it's funny. Period. People ask us why we haven't expanded as fast as we have. I think because I give away too much stuff. Listen, you know what happens? Try getting a call from a kid from the Midwest that's telling me, and I'm Facebooking with him to train him, and I've got 2 kids behind him, one in diapers. His wife is concerned because he's out by himself.
I think his wife was the one who wanted to get the shield.
And it's always the family members who are reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, what else? You know, what's out there? This and that." And I'm not a big political player because, you know, I think I maybe. Like you and I talk, I don't know if I swear too much or whatever, but I always I kind of say it the way that it is. I'm not going to play politics with someone's life, because when someone shuts their mouth, people die, and I've seen that firsthand. So I'm not going to be the one that's going to be the daisy on the wall and say, "Oh, hey, call it bullshit." I'm like, dude, that's bullshit. And then some people don't like that, you know. And then I go into training sometimes, and people are like, "Hey, that's not going to work." And then we've broken elbows or split someone open with a hit on a strike, because we're not going to swing. I'm not going to hit you like, hey, hit you with the wiffle ball bat and pretend you're being attacked. It's going to be the real deal. Throwing bricks at you, we're going to do the real deal, and then we're going to make sure that you're confident with the equipment. And if you want to call me 24 hours a day or call Wendy, you just pick up the phone and we're going to talk to you. And this is what we do. I just hope to God, I really mean this, that somebody listening is going to reach out to somebody and say, hey, and we get someone they get to go home at nighttime. And then my life is done. My life is complete. Like, you know, we made a difference in this world, all of us.
Well, like you said, Bobby, eventually, you know, the shield, it's the lifetime warranty on the shield. So that means eventually, if you sell out, that's it. There's no, hey, I'm going to send you a new shield next month because I want more out. So eventually it'll come to that. And I know you don't care. I know, and if you can have it tomorrow, every officer would have it. You know, what everybody has to understand is that I can't imagine what it costs to build a shield, and I'm not asking for you to disclose that. But I know it's costing you money, and I know that you're sacrificing. I know you drove all the way down to our DFW area, and you guys looked tired as shit when you came there. And you still put on the class. You gave a great class.
Thank you.
The course is amazing. The class was great. And then you left 2 shields with us, the T&E, for 30 days. That's a long time to put product in someone's hand and hoping that a department bites. But you guys do it, and you do it every day. And that's why I'm standing with you. And I told you guys, I'm here with you, and I'm going to be that voice on that mountain screaming to these cops and these administrators. Because I'm at that point in my career, I don't give a shit. You know, I'm 18 years in. I don't care. You know, so and I've held myself to the highest standard. I've never been jammed up.
You know what we need?
I'm that good cop.
You know what we need? We need like a group of officers that will band together and then call these products or this real shit products out there and call them out on it, you know, and not just making sure they can't be sold to law enforcement because someone thinks it's a cool item or something, you know, just because the real world usage are you guys, you know, you men and women in the field. You guys will again, Shark Tank. Listen, I'm on Shark Tank every day. I don't need to try going into a room with 30, 40, 50 police officers who don't want to be there they're drinking they don't want to be there. And then by the time we leave, they look and they all shake our hands and they say, thank you. This is not the class we wanted. And this is not the product we even thought it was. And then because again, we don't tell the public. Then I have media doing stories on us, which is totally not what we are. And then now we're saying, you know what, enough. We're going to do a podcast. We're going to reach out and do it, right, Wendy?
Yep.
So we got the mics. I'm not a professional podcaster. I learned how to learn the equipment. Not that good at it. But
that's the beauty of podcasts. You're your own boss here. You do what you want.
We're trying, Pete. We're trying, and you know we got an hour.
You guys are doing a great job.
We're doing
Thank
our
you.
part to make sure the word gets out, Pete, to help you guys.
And we have an hour. It's an hour and 15. This is our longest podcast.
We'll start wrapping up.
Wendy's like, this is our longest podcast.
We're from the Northeast. That's because we're from the Northeast. We know
Correct.
how to talk shit. That's why.
Because we can talk. But I really want to thank you, Pete, and stay safe out there. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you this week. And we talk to all our officers. And any news or anything we can help you, please call us right away. And, you know, we're going to.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
No, we're going to be sending you down straps. We have to send you down straps.
Oh, and there was a gentleman really quickly that reached out yesterday on the social media whose son is a state trooper out there, a grandson.
Oh,
and
really?
He wants to speak to you directly, Pete. So I need to set that up.
Yeah,
so.
Give him my listen. Anyone that you guys have my number, you know where I'm at.
Yep.
You know, on the podcast we keep things a little discreet because there's bad guys always lurking. Trust me. So we keep things discreet. DFW is a big ass area, but you give my number to any vetted law enforcement officer, and I will gladly speak with them, and I will gladly meet them anywhere they want. I don't have a problem. I'm a driving fool.
Hey, I have an idea.
Absolutely.
No, here's what we're going to do. SavingLivesWithVector@gmail.com. Any officer that wants to get in touch with Pete, send us your credentials.
Credentials from a department email.
From a department email. Then you'll speak to Wendy, and then we'll put you in touch with Pete. And then this way you guys can talk.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And this is a big state. There's a lot of officers in Texas, and I'm hoping there's a lot of listeners out here. And any officer out there, I don't care. Even if you're not in Texas, I served in Florida. I served in PA. Wherever you're at, reach out. You want an officer's perspective, a one-on-one off the mic, where we got certain things we can't discuss and we can't divulge for obvious reasons. Please reach out to them. They'll put you in touch with me, and we can have a good conversation, and we'll go from there.
Thanks,
Absolutely,
Pete.
100%.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to sign off.
Thank you, guys.
Blessings always, Pete.
And we're going to say,
stay safe.
And stay protected. This is Vector and Law Enforcement Unconventional, and we thank you so much for listening. And thanks, Pete. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care.